because you do have probation violations. It's a long time too. One of the conditions will be that you are to have no contact with minors. So if you're standing in the store and there's a kid in front of you, or you're on your way to work and you encounter a child, then you have to have a plan of action. So whatever you are going to get at that store either needs to be put back. You remove yourself from that situation so that you're not violated. And then maybe once the child is gone, or then you can go back in. But you have to think of situations just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where you're in close proximity to children, or, what happens if someone says, oh, wow, that's Mr. Bowman. Did you read about what he did on the internet? How do you handle that?
Well, I'm guessing you already knew what he was in for by just seeing the thumbnail, but yes, he is locked up for just a small, little itty bitty sentence of 2 years and 6 months, seeing if he can get released early. We'll unpack it with all the details at
Hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Hunter Bowman, inmate number 443543. He is serving a sentence of 15 years jail, 2.5 years to serve, followed by 13 years of probation for possession of child pornography second. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of May 2nd, 2024. There was no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following programs: the short track sex offender program and voices. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, this offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. If a sex offender, utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the low moderate range. Mr. Bowman, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I would like to be given the chance to get out and begin furthering my treatment. I have experienced success with the DOC mandated programs that they've had me do here, and I would like to get out and be able to continue on that success and do everything possible to get back to life, get back to being a productive member of society, get back to the family and get their support on top of all the others.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Bowman, for that opening statement. Much of what you mentioned in your opening statement is our desires for you. We want to keep the people that we consider bad people inside the prison, but those who can actually learn from their mistakes and avoid these behaviors in the future, yeah, we can gauge, I guess, a little about their change, their level of change, and hope that when they return, that they learn their lesson, and when they go back out in the community, then hopefully they will not commit any more crimes. Your offense is very concerning to me because, one, the length of time that it incurred, that it occurred, not incurred. And the fact that you admit that you have some attraction to the things that you're viewing on the internet. So you've taken a short-term program since you've been in there. Were you able to identify anything that would help you avoid these behaviors in the future?
A lot of what the short course program covered was about self-policing and not allowing fantasies to become realities. And, it also covered just how much the actions I was taking were re-victimizing and creating new victims.
Mhm. Very good insight. That's good. So how do you avoid, so you avoid doing this again in the future by understanding that when you look at this or distribute this kind of thing, you are victimizing another person who didn't act, they can't uh, approve or consent to doing this kind of thing because they're not old enough to do that. So when you go out into the community, things are going to be very, very different for you. You understand that?
Yes.
And so your ability to be around children and things of that nature, go to a park, to a mall, to a movie, all that stuff is really going to be different. How do you think you're going to handle that? I hope you don't say I'm just going to stay in the house.
I hope to handle it by leaning on the family, by looking to the family for support and spending most of my time doing things with the family. And
Do you intend to work?
yes, I have work lined up as soon as I leave.
And so what happens if you're going about your day and you come across the child? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, if I come across a child, I do absolutely nothing.
Well, you
I
can't
can
stay. So if you're standing, if you know that one of your conditions, because you do have probation to file since this is a long time too, one of the conditions will be that you are to have no contact with minors. So if you're standing in the store and there's a kid in front of you, or you're on your way to work and you encounter a child, then you have to have a plan of action. So whatever you are going to get at that store either needs to be put back, you remove yourself from that situation so that you're not violated. And then maybe once the child is gone, or then you can go back in. But you have to think of situations just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Where you're in close proximity to children, or, what happens if someone says, oh, wow, that's Mr. Bowman. Did you read about what he did on the internet? How do you handle that?
The idea of someone saying that, oh, I saw him on the list. And everybody who is important to me in my life knows exactly where I am, exactly what I did to get here. Mm-hmm. Anybody else that decides that all I am is based off of the fact that I am on the list is not someone who will be important in my life.
But you do realize that there are stigmas associated with people that are considered sex offenders. And people will know, they have every right to know that you're in their neighborhood, and they may treat you some kind of way. And so you have to understand that things they were normally in your life are not going to be the same when you return. So I just want you to be aware of that, because I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to tell you that it's going to be difficult. And so it's important that you have a plan in place. Sounds like you have the support. You need to do a little more planning, because different things will occur that you will find yourself, like birthday parties, or, it's so many weddings, you never know. Things that you'll have to turn down because you don't want to be violated, or you have to get permission for. I did see that you were looking into getting your CDL. I do know that this is your only offense. And I did read the PSI where your sister was in support of your not even spending time in prison, because you guys have already suffered a tremendous loss. And I apologize. My condolences for your loss. And she just wants you all to be a family again, which is rare, but I'm glad to see that she's still there and supportive. I also see that you didn't receive any disciplinary infractions. You've taken the appropriate programming. And I also know that you have to appear on the sex offender registry for what, 10 years?
I actually have not been informed of that. No one has told me I have to be on it for life.
I didn't say life. That 10 years.
No, I
Do you
was
know
saying
how
that.
long? Okay. For 10 years, I believe it. Yeah, I couldn't find it either, but I know that he has to be on there. So are you okay with an officer going through your phone, or you're not being authorized to be on Facebook or Instagram or Chat Now or Me Too or whatever those things are called? What is it, Snapchat? All that stuff, you know?
Yes, I was on pretrial supervision for over 2 years. And for the first year, I wasn't allowed any internet access whatsoever. And for the second year, I was allowed to have a cell phone, but the officer could confiscate it at any time and go through it at any time.
Okay. And do you have any problem with, I heard you talk about continuing treatment, and I'm assuming that you have your own private position in line or something lined up, but you'll also have to do it in the community until they feel that you've successfully completed the program. So you don't have any problems with that either, right?
No, I welcome any and all treatment.
Okay. All right. Ms. Palmieri?
Thank you. So, Mr. Bowman, the chair touched on the fact that you'll have treatment in the community, and you mentioned having done some in pretrial. And I read that you found that treatment to be very helpful. What were some of your takeaways from that particular treatment?
From the
treatment with Mr.
pre-person-
Hobson.
Mm-hmm.
with Mr. Hobson, that was largely to do with I was still dealing with the older sister's death, and I was just in a tailspin from that, and it that was the contributing factor that pushed me so deep into the addiction that I ended up getting caught. I was just so out of touch with reality anymore. So directly after the search warrant was served, and I started treatment with William Hobbs, it was largely about understanding why I was doing it and who it was harming, and it was mostly for me. It was understanding why I was doing it.
Okay. And do you understand why you're doing it? Do you have because I also read that you were using the pornography to meet your emotional needs. So what I'm getting to is, have you been able to develop what we would call a relapse plan, some aspect of a plan, so that when you find yourself, as you put it, going down a rabbit hole, that you'll be able to stop yourself, have somebody else that you'll be able to reach out to as a monitor?
So please.
I did a relapse plan with the short course program here with Melissa, and largely the overall relapse prevention portion of it is that everybody in my family knows what I'm dealing with. They'll know exactly what my conditions are. I can go to any one of them if I feel that I'm struggling, that I need help, and they'll make sure I get the help. And then I also have I was dealing with the probation officer before, so I'm hopeful that whichever probation officer I end up with, I'll be able to go to them if I need help as well.
Yeah, very good. I got from reading the summary from your treatment at the facility, it appears that you, although you were kind of reserved, as they said, you did gain some valuable insight into what your behaviors are that led you into viewing the pornography. Do you feel that's true?
Yes. You know, in the group with Melissa, you know, that she was talking about a lot of the emotional reasons, and the biggest emotional factor that seemed to be for me personally was a feeling of lack of control in my own life, and
Okay. And I'm going to say that you and Melissa worked on a plan for how to manage your emotions a little bit more closely in the community.
So I hadn't done the treatment with Melissa, obviously, until I got here. But like I said, between the search warrant and the sentencing, I was in the community for roughly 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already developed an understanding of how to prevent myself from relapsing, what I needed to do in my life to keep myself away from going back there.
Mr. Bowman, I did read your pretrial treatment. Seems like you were very committed to that. And like I mentioned earlier, the summary from your treatment at the facility indicates that, you know, for the time that you were in, you were committed and you seem to have benefited from it. So I wish you well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. Ms. Chance?
Yeah, so Mr. Bowman, would you say that during the 3 years that you were in the community prior to your incarceration, when you were meeting with Bill Hobson, that helped you to have a better understanding when you participated in the short-term sex offender program?
I think it helped my understanding of what we were looking for in that program, and it definitely helped me be willing to delve into what was going on with me, and rather than just being stuck at being unwilling to admit that what I had been doing was so terrible.
I think she referred to it as you were in the action stage, right? Action stage of change. You know, because you took full responsibility for the offense and you did show some remorse, right? And I know that a couple of the things that you worked on with her, I thought she did a very good assessment of where you are today. You seem like very reluctant to share, but I believe you have acquired a very good knowledge of what was going on with you and where you are today. And she described it, and I'm not going to go through it because it's like 2 pages, but the final analysis that you have certainly, you know, identify the age group that you are actually sexually attracted to, and you were able to work through that and express your thoughts and feelings about that. And then you were asked to identify a high-risk situation for you when you go back in the community. And you said that it was being able to access the internet. And so I believe you're going back home to your parents,
That is the plan, yes.
and they're aware that they have to have some restriction on their access to the house internet.
Yes, they'll keep me on the straight and narrow. If it comes down to it, they won't have internet in the house if that's what they have to do.
I just need to say, Ms. Bowman, you're 28 years old, look a lot younger. But just from what I've read about the treatment that you've done prior to your incarceration and your 12-week short-term sex offender program, that you have done well in the program and that you have a good treatment plan for when you go home to follow through with all the areas that you have identified. And you have the support of your family. Okay, so I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. I think that Mr. Bowman is an appropriate candidate for discretionary parole. I think that he would benefit from the higher level of supervision prior to his starting that 10 years of probation. Hopefully that he can complete it successfully. Of course, he would have a restriction on pornography and be stipulated to participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community, and they would be monitoring his electronics, and he would know
internet.
and he would not be able to have contact with minors without the full officer's permission. I heard the officer say his eligibility date was May. Was it May 1st? May 2nd, which means his date would be today. Are there any objections to that or
No.
those conditions? Any additional?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, me too. With regard to Hunter Bowman, 443543, I move that he be granted discretionary parole on or after today's date, June 10th, 2024, with the following conditions. In addition to the standard parole conditions, he is to have no contact with minors without the parole officer's permission. He is to be, his electronic devices are to be monitored with enhanced monitoring. Also, he has a restriction on pornography, and he will participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. Did I say everything, ladies?
Yeah, you did.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All in favor? All right. Mr. Bowman, congratulations, sir. You've been voted to parole. You'll receive this in writing. We wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
Now concludes the hearing for Hunter Bowman, inmate number 443543.
I think what bothers me most about this interview is the complete lack of understanding of the issue that they are dealing with. It's as if they have zero understanding. They are talking to him as if he is someone who has control over what he's attracted to. In the conversation, they said, you know, we saw that you have in your therapy that you were using this, you were looking at CP to meet your emotional needs. So what are you going to do to move forward? You know, well, I know you're going through a difficult time in your life, and that's why you are doing this. And it's like, no, he's doing it because he's attracted to children. He will always be attracted to children. It's how he's wired. You can't fix it. Which makes it even more insane that they have a 10-year, just 10 years, where he has to be on the registry. This is a lifelong disease. he is never going to not be attracted to children. My understanding, from what I've seen, from the studies that I've seen. I don't know why this parole board doesn't have access to those studies. You would think in Connecticut, with all their brilliant PhDs in academia, that they would know something that has been known for years. But instead, they perceive it as just like something that he did as a mistake, or something that could be easily fixed by some programs, by therapy. I thought maybe he actually understood his problem more than they did, and they just weren't getting at it. You know, to his credit, I think he seems to understand that he does like children. I think he's a moderate range. How do you release anyone who's a moderate range, who's not a low risk? Not that the risk score makes any difference. And then, you know what I really, really pissed me off, and this is, we see this so often with this Connecticut parole board, but it was Miss Page, who asks him a question and then gives him the answer that she needs. So what are you going to do to make sure that you don't do this again? And don't tell me that you're going to stay inside the house all day. And it's like, I mean, this is a parole hearing. That's inappropriate. You can't give the answer you don't want to hear. You need to wait for him to give the answer. And he still didn't give. He's just like, I don't know. What did he say? I'm not going to go. I don't know. It was basically the same answer. You can't do anything. This is what he's into. It's very simple. If it's like if I woke up in a George Orwell book, like 1984, and it was in this, and all of a sudden they're like, Mandoo, you can't look at women. You're gonna go to the park, and there's a female there, and an adult female. Just imagine I was single or whatever. You can't talk to them. You have to go and turn away and walk away. If you're in a supermarket and there's a woman there, you got to go out, wait till they leave. But in 10 years, don't worry, in 10 years, no one's going to be supervising you anymore. You can do whatever you want on your phone. You don't need to register. All those rules are gone. But for that 10-year period, you can't do it. And I'd be like, I would know that I have to tell them what they want to hear for me to get released. So I'd have to tell them, yes, what I did was wrong. I would need to say all the right things, but it wouldn't change how my mind's wired. It wouldn't change that if I had an opportunity, that I knew that if I wouldn't get caught and I had the opportunity, that I wouldn't jump in. And it certainly wouldn't change that after the 10 years is up, I'm going to go party. So if you think of it just in that basic mythology, if you want to call it that, or that basic just way of thinking, tell me then tell me how any of it makes sense. And I'm not a PhD. I didn't graduate Harvard or Yale. And I think that most of us can see things this way. But not the ones in power making the decisions who have to protect our children. And that's just nuts. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Or as Richard says, $29.80 with inflation. With that, I'll let you go.
Good morning. My name is Parole Officer Renard. Today is Friday, January 12th, 2024, and this is a hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. Following board members are present this morning by stating their names on the record, certified and reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, I'm panel member Page.
Good morning, Deborah Smith Palmieri.
Good morning, panel member Dorgan.
Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Lavolsi. Inmate number is 386241.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of a parole application for Lawrence Lavolsi, inmate number 386241, is serving a sentence of 48 months jail class sentence for violation of probation of the underlying offense of possession with intent, sale of narcotics, conveying an unauthorized item into an institution, disorderly conduct, 2 counts of failure to appear second, 4 counts of larceny 6, reckless endangerment, possession of a controlled substance, larceny 4, and a use of motor vehicle without permission. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of March 23rd, 2023. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed. It shows the offender has completed the Tier 2 program and is participating in that program. Utilizing a statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the high range of risk for recidivism. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Good evening, or good morning, you guys. I just, also want to say that thank you for, the opportunity to see me today. As you can probably tell, I'm pretty nervous. This is, for my freedom. What had taken place up to me getting incarcerated, is, all been going through my head since I've been incarcerated. And, I'm extremely remorseful and extremely sympathetic to the people that were, in my way because of addiction. And as a result, I ended up harming, people that were involved. And,
I think you need to add the word innocent people involved, because the way you're sounding, it sounds like people were in your way, preventing you from getting what you wanted.
No, and that's what I mean. The people that were innocent that had no reason even being around, me, that, I think about that, and I think about the people that I harmed, and it just, it makes me want to just live a different life, just a little bit about myself. I grew up in a really good household. Both my parents were artists. I went to school for art. Yeah,
I saw that because we have some
background.
We had some support letters from your one of your parents' professors.
Yes, and
you look like at her like a grandma.
Yeah, well, no, more like a mother. She's, extremely an amazing person, an amazing soul. And, one of the things she taught me is to always leave your mark on this world. And, at plus 85 years old, she's still working every single day to leave her mark on this world, and a true legacy, which, since incarcerated, I can only say that, my life before being incarcerated, I wasn't doing that. I was not doing that. And
you were.
I was leaving my mark in a terrible way, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to leave that kind of mark. My father as well, my mother, both left amazing legacies. We're known in Litchfield County. Before, my drug addiction, I was in the newspaper all the time for my art, for my accomplishments. I worked with kids at Foreman School, Devereaux. These are all adolescents who, I taught how to blow glass. I taught art, and, I had such joy doing that, and as soon as drugs came, I started to not care about anything but that. And as a result, it made me make terrible, poor choices, Obviously, taking a car, having people in danger, larcenies, all these things that came with it. And I look at the sheer list of things that had taken place up to that point, up to me getting incarcerated. It's bad, the plan that I have, if you guys do end up giving me parole, is, I want to try and get to New Haven. New Haven is an area where I have a bunch of friends who are all huge, huge assets in my life that are, sober supports. They're doing amazing. They're just here for me, and they're willing to extend their hand to make sure that I do the right thing, and if I go back to Waterbury, I go back to Litchfield County, I know it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. I can just guarantee you that, and I don't want to do that. So I'm trying to make and pave the best possible outcome, so.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate your opening statement, Mr. Lavalsi. Is that right, Lavalsi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what's going to happen here is each of us will take an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Okay.
When we're done with our questions, we'll deliberate and then we'll give you our decision, okay?
Absolutely.
We wish you the best of luck. Mr.
Thank
Durgan,
you.
we'll start with the questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Very well. So, I guess it would be an understatement to state that your issues are related to addiction, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. But even when you're incarcerated, you get a ticket for substances. Is that accurate?
Right. So the day that I was arrested or picked up by the bounty hunters, I ended up having something that was left after they searched me. And, still with this in my system, the drugs in my system, I thought it was a good idea to continue to bring it into the facility, which ended up being the worst possible thing. I saw somebody in a bullpen that I knew we used together, and I didn't know that he had 4 months clean. So when I gave him that bag, he ended up overdosing. So now when that happened, I went into shock, so I called the guards, they came through. So not only was that a wake up, and it happened right at the beginning of me being incarcerated. If you look at the dates, the very next day, July 22nd. 2021, the day after I got arrested.
Okay. So, you're taking tier 2, right?
Yeah. But also,
what were you able to get out of that program?
So, in tier 2, I think one of the biggest things that I got out of that program is that, there's not always going to be somebody around that you could call. There's not going to be somebody that is going to be able to pick up the phone if I'm in risk of trying to get high, right? So you got to put those tools together. And I think that that's what I really got out of it. What should I do if that problem arises, And to say that those problems didn't arise while I was incarcerated, I would be not telling you the truth. Those things happen in this facility and every facility that I've been in, and I said, I don't want any part of that. And I think that was a big part of that instance that happened when I first got in. And, I just got those tools, I feel like, from tier 2. And that's the biggest thing because, I'm going to be left to my own devices,
Right. So how long have you been sober or drug-free or whatever you want to call it?
Since that day, so July 22nd, 2021. And I actually brought paperwork with me today from the MAP programs with all my drug screens.
So how do we continue you to stay sober or drug-free? What's your game plan? Are you looking to get a sponsor? Are you looking to attend NA meetings? Are you looking to go to CCAR? Tell me what your game plan is.
So actually all of those plus more when I was over at Colorado Robinson, I got really involved with CCAR, right? So they set me up with a counselor that I could talk to here in Enfield, but then also when I leave to go into New Haven. Also with that in New Haven, like I was telling you before, I have a huge sober support. That's, you know, where I have a temporary sponsor right now that is willing to pick me up as soon as I, you know, start meetings out there. I got really involved with, you know, some of the time that I had while I was incarcerated. I got involved with NAAA, and I got published actually in a NANAA world newsletters.
Because I read something that one time you were looking to go to a sober house, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I got actually, that's where my sponsor, he's one of the managers at that house in New Haven.
I bring that up because I just read an article this week about an individual that owns a sober house that just got arrested for selling drugs to the individuals that were in the sober house. So just to let you know, I just want to bring that to your attention.
Yeah.
So you think that you have a strong game plan with individuals in the community that will be there to be of help and assistance to you, right?
Absolutely. And so the other thing too is like, you know, every time that I ever was, you know, I was told to go to therapy or to a psychiatrist, and it was always court appointed. You know what I mean? So little thing, like right before I ended up getting arrested, you know, my father had passed away in 2015. So I started to go to therapy, you know, just as a recommendation from a friend of mine that said, hey, you should go to therapy. And I started to actually get a lot out of it, you know? And so one of my friends, she had said to me, she was like, listen, you know, self-care and, you know, taking care of yourself is so attractive. And so once I heard that, I started to think like, okay, well, you know, I'm actually getting things out of this, you know, like I could just dump my problems and talk about the things that I don't want to talk about, you know, with another guy or another fellow, you know, guy.
I also read, I think in the past that you did programming back in 2010 too, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So court appointed.
Yeah, so, you know, I think you have a, you know, good game plan when you are released. The other thing I bring up about New Haven, in their city hall too, they have what's called a reentry program. I bring it up every time for anybody that's looking to go in the halfway house, and it's like a one-stop shop, right? I mean, available maybe for job opportunities, healthcare, housing, CCAR, NA meetings, whatever. So you should avail yourself of those resources too when you are released, okay?
Sir, can I ask, is that the reach? Is that called reach or just the reentry?
It's a program that's done through some of the major cities whereby it's like a reentry program that some of the mayors have put together to be helpful to people that have been incarcerated and they're re-entering society. Okay?
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for answering my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garrigan. Ms. Palmieri?
Thank you. So Mr. Livolsi, did I pronounce that properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So a couple of things. When I'm looking at the picture, your picture from when you were first incarcerated, and you're like two different people.
Yeah.
You know, your picture when you were arrested, you were like emaciated.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to you. You look so much healthier, and I would think you feel a lot healthier.
Absolutely. I get goosebumps when I look at that photo, and you know, I actually I asked for a picture of that so I could send it home and just show, you know. But
you're like two different people. Barely recognize you. My other question was, so you're participating in the MAP program now?
Yeah, and
Okay.
you know, I had mixed feelings about the MAP program, to be honest with you. I feel like a lot of people here mistreat it. And, when I first got on it, I got on it and I started going down because I wanted to be as a preventative, not as something that, gets you, because it could be intoxicating almost. People are using it as a form of intoxication in here. So I just wanted to be as a preventative, also I know that the program in New Haven offers more resources. So eventually I want to get off of it. My mother's been pushing me to get down low, and eventually I want to get the naltrexone shot. And I feel like that I was on it once before. I had 19 months clean. Obviously I have more than 19 months clean now, but everything changes when you leave.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I only asked because my other question, so I have a couple of parts that I was going to ask, what made you decide to involve yourself with the methadone program? That's my first question.
Well, so kind of like what I just said, obviously I wanted to be a preventative, and I wanted it to help me with the cravings and the thoughts about using. I can't tell you the amount of times that it has come up in here, Bridgeport, Carl Robinson, the amount of times that I've seen drugs, right? And I feel like if I didn't have that in place, it could have been a dangerous thing, you know what I mean? And so not only did it stop my thought about wanting to use, but it's a preventative, it's not gonna do anything. So it helped then, but it also helped me to, focus my energy and my time in other areas.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So,
I do.
I don't know.
I do. And I asked that question because, there's often years ago, if you were on methadone or some other, you weren't really sober. But I think, and you just said it, is that it removes the cravings and allows you to focus on treatment, right? Your other areas. And it is a bit of a safety net. So
Yeah.
I heard you, kind of hemming and hawing, and I think that you need to make a decision for yourself what you want to do with it once we've not so much what the community around you thinks is best. You sound like you had some thoughts about it already. You know what you need to do. And I only asked because I was interested to know if you volunteered for it and how it was working for you. And what I'm hearing is that it's working well for you. And another form of it, naltrexone helps you remain sober in the community for close to 2 years.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think you know what you need. It's a matter of doing it.
I think if I could just add something really quick, I think what everybody mistakes that is it's a cure-all, which it's not.
Right.
It's not a cure-all. You got so much more to do outside of taking a medication. Do you know what I mean? So
it's a piece of the treatment plan. It is not the treatment plan.
Right.
And I think as a board, we often are concerned when there's no form of therapy with the MAP program, whether it's at the facility or in the community, because the two need to go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
They each play their own role, but they and they help, they support one another, is what I was meaning to say. So I heard you say something else that I wanted to just mention. So you said I have this sober network and they're going to make sure I'm doing the right thing. And I want to sort of see if we can rephrase that a little bit, that they will support you in doing the right thing, because they're really your choices, and whatever you choose is going to happen.
And so all the friends that I was just explaining to you about, I mean, they're not going to be there and holding my hand. They're going to be there.
3 years old.
Right, exactly. They're gonna give me suggestions, but with a good suggestion, you have to have the willpower to want to do that. And I think that's part of what happened to me being incarcerated and sitting here is I can't tell you the amount of days that I went by and I said, I'm wasting life in here and I don't want that anymore. You know what I mean? So in going to New Haven and being around this sober support, you know, I'm around people that, you know, will say, hey, listen, you know, I think that you should be going to more meetings, or, hey, I think that you should be, you know, try this job out. You know, these people are doing the right thing, you know. So again, it's all, it's, you could, you know, you could bring a horse to water, but it's up to the horse to drink. So it's kind of like the same scenario.
Right. And I think that part of being sober is being a little selfish, because you have to put your sobriety first, regardless of what else is going on. The other thing that I wanted, so I heard you say, you know, court appointed and the court makes me do this. So you have no probation to follow your sentence today. It's 48 months flat. And if we were to grant you early release, you would be on parole for just a little under 2 years, it looks like. And there's going to be a lot of people telling you this is what you need to do, right? This is what you're required to do. So I you know, I feel like I'm hearing some negative perspective on that. And I caution you to be open-minded, as parole and probation officers have worked with many, many, many people in your situation, and often know, you know, what will work or what will help you make it work. And as I like to say, they could save you from yourself. Right. So even though it's court appointed for a reason.
Right.
You're required to do it for a reason.
Right. Well, I think if I could just add that, I think I was looking at it in a bad way when it was court appointed. And that's kind of what I meant by that. When therapy was court appointed, or when they said go to AA meetings and it was court appointed, I was, you know, reluctant to go. But now when it was, you know, I looked at it in a different light, and it was helping me, and I could unload at therapy and you know, come out feeling almost like a lead vest had been lifted up off of me. I felt good about going, and I wanted to go again. So, you know, I know that, you know, parole is definitely going to make me go through a lot of things that, you know, I'm going to need to do, and, you know, or you know,
And your success is their success, right? Nobody wants to be chasing you around writing warrants. If you're successful, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Navosi, I do not have any other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. So, Mr. Lavalsi, I don't have any questions for you. We're going to deliberate and give you our decision, so you can listen, but please don't interrupt. Don't feel the need to say, give us any more input, okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So anyways, in the case of Mr. Lavowski, it's understatement to say he struggles with addiction, right? So we all could agree on that, I assume. You know, he has a high drug score, you know, 5. He's got a flat sentence. My thought process is that the best would be to give him that opportunity for release. He seems to have a, you know, pretty strong release program. He just has to follow that, right? Or, as my colleague stated, you know, he could be back before us with that flat sentence. So at this time, I'm willing to give him the opportunity to go out as early as which already passed would be today, I guess.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm willing to give Mr. Lavosi the opportunity to go out on parole. He does have a well thought out release plan. Seems to have good support in the community, has done well with the program, seems to have benefited from them. He's got a long history of substance abuse. That at the age of 33, I'm hopeful that he's on a different path.
I understand. So for me, Mr. Lavosi sounds really, really good here today. He sounds confident. He does have the time that he's been in the facility with his sobriety. So I am happy to see and hear that. However, I'm on the other end of the fence, and that is because he has such a long history of substance abuse. And the fact that, you know, when he was out there on probation, you know, his mentality was, okay, I'm going to jail anyway, so just let me run amok. And that's what he did. That's what he did. Lots of people suffered from his trying to support his own habit, and then coming into the facility and someone ODing on drugs that he brought in. It's all very concerning. And we didn't even touch base on the domestic violence that was the disorderly conduct where his girlfriend had a black eye. You know, so he does sound good here today. And I'm glad to hear that he has support in the community and he has a relapse prevention plan that sounds very good. We received several letters of support. He has a sister and brother-in-law, his aunts, uncles, cousins. I just hope that he utilizes all those resources when he's out in the community, but I would deny his request today based on his criminal history, the offenses being committed while he was on probation. And he got into a fight recently, and even though they waived it, a fight is still. So those are my reasons. And I also do have conditions, because I understand I am going on a minority. So I have no consumption of an alcoholic beverage. It's my understanding that this young man does not have a driver's license. So I would do a no driving condition. He also talked about his mental health. So we do a mental health evaluation and treatment. He did participate in domestic violence when he was in the facility. So I would do the second part of that in the community as well. And he asked for a halfway house. Is there anything else?
Yeah, did you say a halfway house? Do you got the victims and Cody's?
I did not list any victims or Cody's because there are no registered victims and what Cody.
But you talked about in your decision of denying them about the former victim.
The girlfriend. I'm assuming that they're no longer together, right? Are you with that young lady?
No, ma'am.
That was LM.
Yeah, I mean, we can put that. That's fine if you want to add that. That's a general no contact, right?
Yeah.
And the co-defendants were all his drug buddies. Yeah, if you want to list those, you gotta call them off because I did not write that down.
I just said two.
Just you,
I had a Seamus.
Byam and Stephanie Johnson.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah.
Stephanie Johnson and who?
SENNAS, Bayram.
Yeah.
A-S,
Yes.
CNS, A.
BAYRAM.
Okay, all right. Okay, so with regard to Lawrence Lavosi, 386-241, there is a motion by majority decision to grant your request for discretionary parole on or after today's date, January 12, 2024, with the following conditions in addition to the standard parole conditions. You are to consume no alcoholic beverages. You are not to operate a motor vehicle without your parole officer's permission. You'll participate in a mental health evaluation and receive treatment as deemed necessary. You'll also complete the second part of the domestic violence program in the community. You ask for a halfway house, so that's a condition for your residential placement. No contact with the disorderly conduct victim. We're going to do a general no contact, initials LM, and also no contact with your co-defendant, Stephanie Johnson and CNS Bayron. Did I say everything?
I think so.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Again, the record will reflect that panel member Page is going on consent based on Mr. Lavosi's criminal history and the offense being committed while he was on probation. Okay, so Mr. Lavosi, I know that was a lot. You will receive all of this in writing very shortly, and we wish you the best of luck. All right, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Lawrence Lavosi, 86.
Okay, again, it's going to take me a while to get used to these type of hearings, this style. This is when he was arrested. He doesn't look as emaciated as really I was picturing. We have seen much worse, and I guess that's because his choice of narcotics is heroin versus what we've seen so much of in Louisiana, which is a lot of meth and crack, really. I it's going to take me a while to get used to this stuff, but they have different programs. Do we say programs? I think so. In the last conversation we had, we said we're going to keep it in the family, the Mandoo family. We'll stick to programs. So let's make that decision. We're going to call it programs. They have different names for the programs. They have different things that he's talking about. Apparently, according to him and the board, and I believe it, he came from a very affluent family. He's an artist. He's, has everything going for him, and then goes down the path of narcotics. And yeah, that'll do it for you. Now, Richard provided this information, and there are some like addresses and things on this document. So I'm not going to share it, but I'll read it to you. I'm not going to share it because you just, you don't know what YouTube will consider a strike, and I don't want to mess around with that. That in YouTube you get 3 strikes and they just shut your channel down. It could be 3 strikes over the course of 10 years. If you want to talk about the most stringent system that exists, much more strict than any parole hearing we've seen, that would be the YouTube strike system. Oh gosh, hold on a second. Oh, and I just realized it now. Richard actually includes a link of his father and him blowing glass, and it says on big letters on top of the picture, copyright. So, I really don't want to mess around with that. But can you imagine? Wow, you're a newspaper, you're gonna copyright a picture of 2 people making glass. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why? Okay, but that's besides the point. Man, drugs are a scary thing. That is all. So anyways, let's go back to the article that we have that goes through the details of like that recent arrest. So they say at the time, late 20s, man and woman were found by police on December 31st in possession of heroin, needles, and cell phone that had just been stolen from a downtown business, according to the police. The Darien police described what had happened with this account, including assertion not proven in court. So an employee at the Verizon store called the police at 1:05 p.m. on Monday, December 31st. Can you imagine doing this? December 31st, right? Then you get to spend your New Year's in jail. To tell them that a phone had just been stolen from the store. The employee gave police a description of the young man and woman. Now, the police found the couple walking together, and they were later identified. Police told the couple to stop, and they did so immediately, or at least Bayram did so immediately, but our parolee here did not. He continued walking away from the officers, ignoring their orders. He eventually did comply with the commands to stop and take his hands out of his pocket, but as he removed his hands from his pockets, police saw that he was holding a hypodermic needle. Can you imagine? He's like so blitzed he doesn't even realize that he's pulls out a needle out of his pocket. He was told to drop the needle and immediately did so. Police found that the needle had been used. When police searched him, they found a package of more dope. I should call it that, right? I don't know what I call it, what YouTube, pipe used for smoking Pepsi Cola. So he was on that stuff. Wow. And for Pepsi Cola, and a second hypodermic needle, which was capped. While searching him, they found a Google Pixel 3 phone, which, by the way, I am a Pixel user. I love my Pixel phone, with a security device attached to it. Oh, man. The device is usually associated with the phone being tethered to a display counter to make it harder to steal the phone. Police also found that the phone was in demo mode, typically of a phone on display at the store. She denied that she stole the phone, but she offered to pay for it if she wasn't arrested. The manager of the Verizon store later identified the phone as the one that had been stolen. The phone is valued at $300. Near where the couple were taken into custody, there was a parked vehicle that they had identified as theirs. The police canine, Kenny, alerted police that narcotics were in the vehicle, and police search turned up a used syringe, a spoon, and several small plastic bags with white powder residue on them. By the way, the whole canine thing, I've been seeing a lot of YouTube documentaries and whatever, just stuff and it seems that there are a lot of people that feel that the whole thing is kind of like almost like a kind of a scheme, like the dogs alert at a certain percent, like a pretty high percentage that is actually not accurate. And of course the handler can make the dog alert. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Of course, we all know how incredible a dog's nose is, but I heard there's a lot of problems with it. Every dog can be trained differently. Dogs are kind of, they want to alert. That's because they're rewarded with treats and blah, 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 and how things, all that works, right? At first identified herself to police with a false name, which resulted in her being charged with interfering with a police officer. So they were each charged with fifth-degree larceny, possession of narcotics, and possession of drug paraphernalia, all misdemeanors. Well, that was all misdemeanors. But he was charged with conspiracy to commit fifth-degree larceny, also misdemeanor, and according to the Connecticut judge or judicial branch website, failure to keep narcotics in its original container, a felony. Which narcotics were they talking about there? Like, what's that even mean? They were each released on $7,500 bonds, and each is scheduled to appear on January 11th. Oh, so they were able to spend New Year's together. Now it says that they had long criminal records. Convictions. On October 5th, Barham pleaded guilty in state superior court to second-degree breach of peace based on October 30, 2017 arrest. She was sentenced to 6 months in jail. Sentence was suspended and 18 months probation. He was convicted, has a conviction on record is longer. So his record includes possession of narcotics in March, October, failure to appear in court in October 2017, possession of narcotics with intent to sell, arrested in May 2010, convicted that September. He was charged with third-degree strangulation in May 2014 and pled guilty to the charge in August 2015. I guess that's what they were talking about. They have other criminal records pending, mostly in state superior court in Waterbury. Oof. I mean, they're like, they're little charges except for the strangulation thing. That's always scary. So remember when they were busted, it was 2019, and this hearing took place in 2024. So kind of a long, clumsy unpacking, but I'm getting used to this new Connecticut thing. You tell me what you think. I don't know. I kind of feel it was a little bit, I just love Louisiana. I guess I didn't realize how much I love doing them after doing these, but maybe we'll get some more interesting hearings. And we'll take a while to figure out the board. So we'll keep on doing this. Thank you, Richard, for the info. Let's move